I'm Aaron. I'm gonna talk to you guys about a very cool topic, immortal animals today. All right, let's get started. So this guy on the screen here is Qin Shi Huang. He was the first emperor and founder of the Qing dynasty. The Qin Shi Huang wanted to live forever, and he got all the scientists and researchers of China to find an elixir of life. So they gave him a pill, and they said, "Hey, this pill will make you immortal." And he ate it, and then he died. So yeah, Cheng Shi Huang died eating a mercury pill, thinking it would make him immortal. That that's kind of sad, but it's pretty clear that throughout history and even in modern times, people have and always will be interested in immortality. It makes sense because most people fear the deterioration that comes with aging and the pain of death. However, the first people to achieve immortality were not people, but animals. The scientists have discovered a handful of creatures and animals that are biologically immortal. They don't age or have found ways around aging, though they can still die of disease and predation. By analyzing and understanding these creatures, we may be able to understand the secret to immortality ourselves. Now, let's look at a rather unsuspecting animal that is almost immortal. The lobster. I messed up the slides there. You already saw it. It's fine. It's able to age without weakening. So the only thing stopping a lobster from living forever is that they grow continuously. The lobster then has to molt regularly, so eventually the lobster takes too much energy to molt and dies. Besides this, lobsters can still die from disease, predation, and health issues. I'm just imagining a cult that worships some lobster named Gary, and they help them molt for 100 years and cause the next Godzilla film. Anyways, lobsters don't weaken from old age because of their body's infinite supply of telomerase. This is an enzyme. I'll explain more what it does later. First, we need some background on our chromosomes. So, our chromosomes are encapsulated in telomeres. The telomeres help protect the chromosomes from getting damaged. Every time the cell divides, telomeres will get shorter. So, for human cells, the telomeres eventually get too short, and the cell would either commit apoptosis or enter senescence. If they enter senescence, they end up becoming harmful to the body. As we age, we build up more and more senescent cells, which is a factor in the body's deterioration over time. For lobsters, because of the virtually infinite supply of telomerase, they can repair their cells' telomeres and thus prevent senescence. In this sense, the lobsters hold a facet of immortality, though we can also just eat them. Who's that Pokemon? It's a Hydra. Not the dragon kind though. Okay, here's a Hydra. It's a funny looking water creature, and we'll name it Jeffrey. This Hydra is roughly 1 to 20 millimeters long, with a few long tentacles that can grow to twice the length of its body. The tentacles also have little nematocysts, which are used to grab and devour prey. They act like little barbs they can eject. Besides these, and besides looking like a really messed up plant, the Hydra has a couple remarkable abilities. Watch this. So we have Jeffrey here, and I'm just gonna. Okay, if you cut a normal animal in half, you get a dead animal. But for Jeffrey here, he just turns into two Jeffreys. I'm calling this one Jeffrey and the other one Jeff. Now we can take Jeff and we put him in a blender, and then we blend him up. A little bit messed up and animal cruelty or whatever, but we can now stick smoothified Jeff into a centrifuge and spin him around a bit. After the centrifuge, Jeff can come out and be completely fine. So his cells sort themselves out given a bit of time. And basically, you can cut and damage Hydra as much as you want, and they will keep repairing themselves. It's pretty crazy, actually. They regenerate very, very well. The example I gave just a second ago with the whole blending centrifuge thing was actually performed by scientists on Hydra, and it worked exactly as I explained. They blended them up, put them in a centrifuge, and the Hydra were fine. So that's pretty crazy, actually. Besides this, researchers also tested for signs of aging in Hydra over the course of 4 years. In the end, the Hydra showed no signs of aging and reproduced at a fairly constant rate. So Jeffrey and his lesser brother Jeff can supposedly live forever. That's pretty cool, right? But how? Well, it's still a bit vague, but we have a couple ideas on how they live forever and regenerate so well. It has to do with stem cells. So, quick review, stem cells are just undifferentiated cells. Basically, they don't have a specific job yet. However, stem cells do have the potential to transform into other cell types, like blood cells or neurons or proteins. There's also a lot of different kinds of stem cells, but I won't go too in depth right now because we're going to talk more about the Hydra. So your body will use these stem cells to replace damaged cells when they die. The Hydra is capable of infinite self-renewal by use of stem cells, and this is due to a specific gene. Most organisms possess a set of FOXO genes, which play a role in cell regulation and maintenance. In Hydra, the FOXO genes seem to be expressed in overabundance, which somehow contributes to the stem cell's infinite self-renewal and thus lack of their aging. This also contributes to the ridiculous regeneration they have. In another experiment, researchers inhibited the expression of FOXO and found that the Hydra weren't able to regenerate as well and also began to show signs of aging. So clearly, there's a very big correlation between these two. However, those articles I read were pretty complex, and I didn't actually understand half of it, so I recommend you guys to read them later if you want to know more. Finally, we get to my favorite immortal animal, the jellyfish. Woo! Side note, I was talking with my friend about jellyfish, and I told him one of the facts I learned. The jellyfish actually has no determinable IQ, because they don't have a brain. And my friend told me, oh, so it's a bit smarter than you. It's true. It still hurts though. Anyways, this is jellyfish I'm talking about specifically is the Teratopsis donrii. It looks just like any other jellyfish, I guess, except it can't die from old age. So before I talk about donrii's immortality, we gotta learn a bit about the life cycle of a normal, mortal jellyfish. So first, the jellyfish hatches from an egg in the mother's brood pouch. And this little hatchling is actually called the planula larva. It's a free-swimming form which is very small and very vulnerable to predators. Oftentimes, these will get eaten up and they will just die. Anyways, the larva will next sink to the bottom of the sea and plant itself to the floor. In this state, it will chill for a little bit and try and gain enough energy to further develop. Once it gets enough energy, after, I don't know, a day, a week, it really depends on the conditions, the planted larva will turn into a polyp. This is a tubular structure that feeds itself using these tentacles. Interestingly, the polyp looks a lot like a hydra, and this is probably because the hydra are actually part of the same phylum as jellyfish. You can see here on this chart. It's a phylogenetic tree. Finally, there is the ephira stage, which grows from the polyp. It's free-swimming and resembles a small, young jellyfish. Some people also call this the young Medusa stage, but I call it the ephira stage. So, over time, the ephira will develop into the Medusa. This is the most recognizable form of a jellyfish, and it's the one we see the most. For most jellyfish, they reproduce and then die in this stage. However, Donrii has the ability to reverse the life cycle. Under extreme stress or tissue damage, Donrii can revert back into a polyp. This is a process called transdifferentiation. The jellyfish can then form a polyp colony and restart the growing process. It's like an internal fountain of youth. So they can just keep going back and back and back and keep becoming young again. However, Donrai is still only theoretically immortal. Most of them die of disease or predation during the Medusa stage. Anyhow, in a few experiments, scientists they found that Donrai normally transdifferentiate under a lot of conditions, a wide variety of conditions. So these are listed among them, such as starving, change in water salinity, rapid temperature change, or damage to their body. But it's also very hard to experiment on these jellyfish long term since the conditions they need to survive are very specific. It's a little bit ironic considering they could live forever. Anyways, a really interesting thing about T. donrii is that they can respecialize non-stem cells. So it's pretty great because we use stem cells in a lot of cures for diseases like leukemia, lymphoma, and neuroblastoma. And normally these stem cells are difficult to acquire, and finding a way to use non-stem cells could be vital in bringing better treatments to more people. We can use stem cells to replace neurons damaged by multiple sclerosis. So imagine if we could use non-stem cells and respecialize them to treat these diseases as well. Oh, that's the wrong slide. Anyways, immortality is a topic with many ethical questions. Those aside, it's just really cool to think about. The fact that a few animals on Earth have already achieved some form of it is incredible. By observing and experimenting on these creatures, we could end up creating some huge great breakthroughs that help cure diseases and increase the general well-being of humanity. I'm hoping you guys have all learned a little bit about these immortal creatures, and if you're still interested and want to learn more, I implore everyone to check out the links in the document. There are a lot of articles and research papers written by people much smarter than me, which will go further in depth. I hope you guys at least got some interest in this topic, and thank you for watching.